The reigning Moto champion is still grappling to unlock the full potential of the all-new Ducati GP25, while the team expected early teething issues. Few predicted the struggle would be this stubborn. Week after week, Bagnaia's form has flickered, inconsistently casting a shadow over his title defense. Signs of trouble grew impossible to ignore during the recent Italian Grand Prix at Mugello. Historically, this track was one where Pecco reigned supreme, often crushing the competition. Yet last weekend, he seemed a shadow of his former self, unable to find the missing edge. Fans and pundits alike were left stunned as familiar dominance slipped through his fingers. At Mugello, Bagnaia could only secure third place in the sprint race, a modest consolation. The primary race proved even more deflating as he dropped to fourth, surrendering precious points. Compared to last season's emphatic pole positions and double victories, this was a letdown. For a champion who thrives on momentum, the result felt almost like a personal defeat. Before the race, Bagnaia had warned that anything less than a strong performance would be worrying. He hinted that failure at Mugello might expose deeper problems with his machine and mindset. It wasn't bravado, but a sober assessment. For 3 years, he had owned the circuit without mercy. Now, that aura of invincibility was cracking under the weight of the GP25's unpredictability. Indeed, the Mugello weekend has underscored how far Pecco is from true comfort on the new bike. The pressure to regroup has only intensified, with the championship battle more fierce than ever. Every mistake this season is amplified by rivals eager to exploit any vulnerability. There is no margin left for doubt or excuses if he hopes to defend his crown. Team Manager Davide Tardozzi has openly admitted that Ducati is still hunting for a solution. While they pore over endless data, clarity remains elusive, prolonging the uncertainty. Yet Tardozzi maintains unwavering faith in Pecco's pedigree and champion's mentality. His optimism is measured, but he insists that raw talent doesn't evaporate overnight. Yes, after 3 consecutive wins at Mugello, he was expecting something greater, Tardozzi explained. He spoke to Crash.net with a mixture of regret and conviction in his voice. Since the start of this championship, we've faced issues that have stolen his confidence. Tardozzi emphasized that although a fix is pending, the team believes Pecco remains the fastest rider, despite the setbacks. Tardozzi's loyalty to Bagnaia remains absolute. Even as Ducati celebrates Marc Marquez's spectacular surge, he stands by Pecco's side. No question that managing to elite riders demands delicate balance and diplomacy. Yet Tardozzi insists his focus never wavers from helping Bagnaia rediscover his rhythm. When you have 2 riders, one on the podium, the other struggling, I stay closest to the one in trouble, Tardozzi told Motorsport with a quiet firmness that silenced any notion of favoritism. His words offered reassurance to a team grappling with internal tension and rising expectations. It was a reminder that in Ducati's garage, no champion is left to fight alone. The gap that has opened between Bagnaia and Marc Marquez has become an uncomfortable reality. Pecco's deficit in the standings grows with every missed opportunity and mechanical quirk. Meanwhile, Marc seems liberated, riding with a confidence that only fuels the pressure. Ducati's hierarchy knows this rivalry could define the entire 2025 season. Still, Tardozzi refuses to entertain the idea that Bagnaia has lost his speed or nerve. Pecco remains Pecco, he declared, a mantra he repeated more than once in recent days. He insisted that the same brilliance which delivered last year's title is still there, waiting. The only missing piece is a solution that can unlock the GP25's hidden potential. Watching Bagnaia struggle has been a disappointment not just for Ducati, but for Moto itself. Many had hoped 2025 would produce epic battles between Pecco and Marc every single weekend. Fans imagined a season of duels worthy of legend champion against the champion, a corner for a corner. Instead, uncertainty and frustration have stolen that dream, at least for now. Yet no great rider is immune to the lows of this brutal sport. Even icons like Valentino Rossi endured seasons of defeat and doubt. Marc Marquez himself has walked through darkness and injury before emerging stronger. Bagnaia's present struggles are just another chapter in the endless cycle of racing. If there is a lesson here, it is that champions are forged as much by hardship as by triumph. The accurate measure of Pecco Bagnaia will not be how he celebrates victories, but how he responds to failure. Tardozzi believes that resilience is the hidden weapon no rival can ever steal from him. It is only a matter of time, he says, before the champion reclaims his rightful place at the front. For now, all eyes turn to the next race, where Pecco's resolve will face another brutal test. The world waits to see whether he can silence the doubts that swirl around him like a storm. Some say it is already too late to save his title defense, but Tardozzi scoffs at such defeatism. He knows better than anyone that a true champion only needs one breakthrough to ignite the fire again. Until that moment arrives, Bagnaia will continue to fight, lap after lap, corner after corner. The road back to the top will be steep, but it is a road he has traveled before. Every setback is simply fuel for the subsequent resurgence, the next impossible comeback, and when it happens, few will be surprised because Pecco Bagnaia has never been ordinary. The stage is set for an explosive showdown at the 2025 Dutch MotoGP in Assen this weekend, where the fierce rivalry between Ducati teammates Marc Marquez and Pecco Bagnaia is about to ignite. Once again, tensions have been simmering ever since their heated clash at Mugello, where the two locked horns in a short-lived but fiery duel that left scars on both pride and mentality. Marquez ultimately emerged as the undisputed conqueror, clinching his fifth Grand Prix victory of the season after 23 grueling laps that underlined his merciless dominance. Bagnaia, meanwhile, watched his race unravel in front of his home fans. Despite an early lunge to unsettle Marquez, the man they still call the baby alien, his pace disintegrated lap by lap, and he limped home in a deflating fourth place. Stripped of the Mugello winning streak he had cherished for 3 consecutive years. The disappointment was palpable. Bagnaia's performance collapsed under the weight of expectation, and his lap times told a grim story of frustration. It was a bitter pill to swallow for the Italian star, especially as Marquez transformed the same track into his playground as if possessed by some racing deity. He smashed milestone after milestone, securing a record 100th pole position and racking up his 93rd career victory with brutal precision. In qualifying, Marquez defied all predictions by unleashing an almost supernatural lap 1 minute 40 for seconds and 169 milliseconds around the 5.85-kilometer circuit that many had pegged as his Achilles heel. That masterstroke not only broke records, but also broke spirits. As the dust settled, even Jorge Lorenzo, watching closely ahead of the Dutch round, could not hide his amazement. Porfuera confessed that Marquez's performance in Italy left him stunned, particularly by the yawning gap that opened up to Bagnaia in the final laps. It was shocking to see the margin, Lorenzo admitted. Marquez was in complete control, more competitive on worn tires, and he looked frighteningly comfortable. Indeed, Bagnaia's early aggression those opening 5 to 8 laps, when he looked ready to topple his teammate, proved fleeting. When the race truly hardened, Marquez pulled away with ice-cold detachment, leaving Bagnaia trailing by more than 5 seconds. Lorenzo could only commend the effort, saying, "I thought Pecco would cause him more trouble late in the race. He tried, and for a while, he gave us a spectacular fight." It wasn't just a technical defeat, it was a psychological blow. The sprint race in Mugello had hinted at a titanic 3-way battle, but in the main event, Marquez's superiority grew almost oppressive. Lorenzo admitted, in the end, Marquez still had margin to spare. He was better in every area, more at ease with the bike, more precise, more confident. The assessment was as cutting as it was true. Marquez had not just beaten Bagnaia on track, he had planted seeds of doubt in his rival's mind. It was a show of mental supremacy as much as racing skill, a statement that the 8-time world champion was still willing to crush reputations to keep his legend alive. And yet, Lorenzo, now a MotoGP legend himself, showed a glimmer of empathy for Bagnaia's plight. He recognized the suffocating pressure of expectation and the invisible strain of trying to stay afloat when the machinery refused to cooperate. "I understand what Pecco is feeling," Lorenzo reflected. "I lived through the same darkness in 2011. Or when I switched to Ducati, there are limits you can't overcome in one season." He pointed out that while the engine remains untouchable mid-season, Ducati might still unlock improvements in the GP25's chassis or aerodynamics. If Bagnaia's spirit can survive long enough to capitalize, there's always hope, Lorenzo said, with the calm perspective of someone who has faced his demons on the track. There's a chance the GP25 can improve before the year is over. This weekend in Assen, that hope will be tested under the merciless glare of Marquez's momentum. and Bagnaia's crisis of confidence. Their duel has escalated beyond mere speed. This is a raw contest of character, resilience, and the mental fortitude to withstand relentless pressure. All eyes will be on whether Bagnaia can regroup, exorcise the ghost of Mugello, and strike back against the Spaniard, who seems determined to dismantle him piece by piece. One thing is sure, the Ducati civil war has never been so intense, and the next chapter promises fireworks.